Morse teaches in East European, Eurasian, and Russian Studies and Comparative Literature departments at Dartmouth. And she has translated multiple extremely important volumes of both academic prose, poetry, and fiction from Russian, from Ukrainian, from Bosnian, Croatian, and Serbian as well. Anna Halberstadt, who some of you have also seen at Hunter before, she's the author of 5 poetry books and 7, I was afraid to mix up those two numbers, and 7 volumes of translation. She was born in Vilnius. She's lived in New York since 70s?
1980.
And she is actively translating between the languages, both into English and from English into
Lithuanian, Polish, Russian, English.
So once again, thanks so much for making it. And as usual, we will first do the readings and then we will open it up to a few questions from you. Ainsley also brought a number of copies of this book from all the way from Dartmouth that you could buy for
$20.
$20 and have them signed by both co-translators. Unfortunately, technology is not as advanced yet for the author joining on Zoom to sign it as well, but consider it. And as most events in this series, starting this last fall, it's co-hosted by Tamizdat Project, and we have some brochures about the project if you're curious to know what we are and who we are and what we do. Okay, so once again, let's welcome everyone in this or that format to Hunter, to P126, Chinese Language Center, and thank you all.
We want to really thank Yasha because we really did manage to set up this reading instantaneously thanks to his quick maneuvering. And we're really, really grateful that we could have this conversation. This book did arrive at my house in a bunch of boxes a week ago, but we have been working on it for nearly 2 years. We started working on this project shortly after, really almost immediately after the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. So we wanted to say a little bit just about the book to give you a sense of the context, and then Masha is going to give some remarks, and then we'll read some poems from the book. So I don't know if you want to start about the genesis of the book. I don't even remember. We have to ask Masha probably. So I was translating Masha a little bit in 2021. We had a translation gathering that was all on Zoom of translating contemporary poets. And I did a couple poems then that ended up that were actually part of the manuscript that Masha put together that became this book. If you open the book, so our title, the English title is Communiqués, which we will also explain in a moment, but when we have the bilingual title page, the Russian language side says number 7. And this was Maria's title for the book. So this is her 7th collection of poetry. Very dramatically, as she will probably tell you about, she completed work on this collection right before the invasion. Together with her husband, who is from Ukraine, they left Moscow less than a week before the invasion and went to Odesa. And she completed the manuscript already sitting in Odesa, literally days before the bombing started.
I think, Ainsley and I both translated her poetry before the book. Mm-hmm. I translated her poetry. There were 2 Russian anthologies for the Journal of the Cafe Review. And I translated some of Maria Galina's poems for one of those anthologies. And somehow we came together and decided, to collaborate on this book. And I think it's a very good and it's a very important book. And I hope our translation just doesn't ruin it.
Not to be immodest, but I don't think our translation ruined it. If it did, you're in luck because the book is bilingual. And the book is actually trilingual, and I did want to make sure to mention another aspect of the way in which this book earns its title. So the title Communiqués actually comes from the first cycle of poems in the book, which is published under the title King of the Mountain, but which consists of alternating poems that are called reляция in Russian, which is a communiqué, like a military communiqué, which use kind of documentary material from this well-known in Ukraine travelogue by a French explorer who traveled in the lands of Ukraine. Now I'm going to embarrass myself. I think it was the 16th century.
Reляция is a Russian word, or maybe Ukrainian, because сообщение, скорее всего.
It's yeah. But I mean because English is so omnivorous. We use the French. Anyway, so this explorer Guillaume de Beauplan is a fairly well-known figure in Ukraine. And so that section is just called Communiqués, but then the final section of the book, which is not part of the collection that Maria finished under the title number 7, is selections from the diary that Maria began keeping quite religiously from the moment of the invasion to the present day on her Facebook page.
I think I would like to add something.
Yeah, please.
Because Maria predominantly was known as a poet who wrote in Russian, but she was from Odesa, and her Ukrainian was from, was high school Ukrainian. And when she moved to Odesa, she started kind of restoring her knowledge of Ukrainian and writing in it more and more. And eventually her diaries, from Russian switched to pretty good Ukrainian.
So in this book, the excerpts we give go from February 23rd, 2022 until June of 2022. But the diary continues, thank goodness, to this day, and it is now entirely in Ukrainian. But what the book demonstrates is the transition, which, for those of you who know about a lot of contemporary Ukrainian culture, this is a process that many Ukrainian writers have been going through, a transition from Russian to Ukrainian. And the diary really does it in a very obvious way, because it begins with very limited notes in Ukrainian, and gradually Ukrainian comes to be the dominant language of these daily missives. And please.
Just one thing, that Maria Galina is also a science fiction writer. She is an author of a number of science fiction books, and she was the science fiction editor in Novyi, which is a prestigious literary journal in Russia. And she said that because she knows how to write a good science fiction book, she could predict. She believed that the war would start, because many people didn't believe that Putin would start it and that he would invade. And she calculated almost precisely they arrived to Odesa one day before the war began.
I think that's a good point at which to turn to Maria for her course. Oi! Oi! Okay. The floor is yours. I'm just gonna stand here and not break anything.
Thank you very much. I'm just a bit nervous because it is my first book in English. And first of all, I want to thank all my translators, it is Ainsley and Anna, and all who are involved into the publishing of this book. And I'm very proud because of this. And I feel myself a very, very, very important person. And I am in Odesa now, and tomorrow morning Odesa was hit by air missiles. But we were very lucky because this missile was hit in the air, and so it was not, didn't do any harm to us. We were lucky. But almost every night we have drone attacks. So I'm already very used not to sleep at night because now it is night in Odesa. Yes. So I want to read 2 poems of this first cycle relations, Communiqués. And I want to read it in Ukrainian because I think that you can read it in Russian by yourself if you study Russian. But it is very important for you maybe to listen to hear the Ukrainian language here. And there is translation of brilliant Ukrainian poetess Maria Galina. She is translator and poet. So I want to read maybe relation or communiqué number 2, and then maybe Ainsley will read translation, and then I will read another one, and I will shut up and give the word to Ainsley and one. So, реляція номер 2. Вони виставляють сторожу на вершечку пагорба. Зауваживши ворога, вартові випускають особливий сигнал. А решта, ті, хто в цей час працює у полі, покидають вже зібрані колоски, спішають заховатися в спеціально обладнаних спутах. Ця їхня пильність достойна найвищої оцінки, рівно ж як облаштування житель, деталюбність та вроджена охайність. Биральню вони завжди влаштовують якомога далі від комори спальні. Звірята ці приязні та невкривні нагадують наших бабаків, але більше із верхньої шелепи стирчать віка велетенських зубів. Вони збирають на зиму сухе листя й траву, але в помилений спосіб. Збиральник лягає на спину, тримає жмут у лапах, тоді два інших тягнуть його за короткий хвіст у нору. Я колись з цікавості розпросав їхнє житло. Дивно було дивитися, як вони метушилися, як бігали, хапали дітлашню та припаси, фамільні коштовності, книжки, фотографії та документи. Я навіть тримав одного такого вдома. Оцей прив'язався до мене, не з'їж мого собаки. Так, Енсі, як ми будемо?
Зараз буде читати Аня. Цю.
Добре.
Do I need to read here? Doesn't matter. Communique number 2. They post guards on hilltops. At the sight of the enemy, the guards let out a special signal. The rest, the ones working in the fields at that time, toss aside the heads of wheat already collected, rush to hide in the hideaways set up for that purpose. This vigilance of theirs deserves the highest praise, just as the arrangement of their dwellings, their love for children, and innate cleanliness. Waysides are always set up as far as possible from food storage and sleeping areas. These animals are friendly and harmless, similar to our marmots, but bigger. Their upper jaw holds 2 enormous teeth sticking out. They collect dry leaves and grasses from the winter in an amusing way. The one collecting lies on its back and holds the bunch in its paws, while 2 others drag it by its short tail to the burrow. One time I dug up one of their dwellings out of curiosity. It was amusing to watch them fussing about, running around, grabbing their young and supplies, family jewels, books, photographs, and documents. I even brought one of them home with me. It became attached to me no less than my dog.
I am going to read the note because I feel bad for not remembering the century in which Guillaume de Poplin visited Ukraine. Just so you know, just for the context for this cycle. So the reports of Guillaume Levasseur de Poplin, who was a French artillery captain who came to serve in the Polish army in Ukraine in 1630. Mm-hmm. And while there, he compiled a document called A Description of Ukraine and the Borisven River, named in common parlance the Dnieper or Dnipro, from Kiev to the sea into which this river flows. So, and so she's drawing on references that come from that work in this cycle. The Communiqué poems alternate with they're all original poems, but with poems that do not have to do with de Poplin. And I'm going to read the one that follows Communiqué number 2. No train station here, the old man said. But I remember very well that it was here. I remember the square in front of the station, the sunflower seed sellers, and apple sellers. They sold apples by the bucket. These yellow apples bruised all over. I suppose they were windfall. No one would buy them, but the sellers sat there all the same. Perhaps, the old man said, you imagined it. Déjà vu. What, even the apples? Apples are what people tend to imagine most of all. But somehow, she objected, somehow I found myself here. There's a certain chance that you have always lived here, the old man said. There still has to be a station. Every city has to have a place you can leave from, leave forever. Otherwise, the city's no good at all. No train station here. Perhaps there was one once, a very long time ago. There was an airport before, too. What, she asks, no one here can leave? If you like, I can row you across in my boat, the old man offered. No, thank you, she said. Thank you very much. No need. Then move along out of here, the old man said. This place gets a lot of crossfire.
Okay. And now the next one, yes, it is the relation number 7, the communique number 7, and it is also in Ukrainian, in the translation by Maria Galina. Реляція номер 7. Вона приходить із південного сходу з голих солоних рівнин, над якими стогнить повітря розпечене спершу, на невеликі розвідувальні загони. Далі тяжкі непроникні хмари, які випадають на землю сірим снігом, набиваються у світлиці, півниці й комори, в постіль, у миску з харчами, що кожний кусень, котрий підноситься до рота, доводиться очищати від неї. Свині, пожираючи її, жиріють, але тутешні люди гидують п'ясом, вирощеним на цієї погибелі. Живим килимом в землю вона вкриває, коні грузнуть по бабки, сахаються, хриплять, роздувають ніздрі, колеса чавлють її загідним хрусткотом, нестерпний сморід, доводилося дихати через хустку, ніс і рота, вмотувати шарфом за допомогою гострих, як вістря своїх хвостів. Вони свердять землі численні продухвини, вкладають туди яйця кількістю до 300, морозини страшне їхньому потомству. Вибираючи назовні, нипають загублено, тицяються туди-сюди, доки не зміцнюють, а якщо у той час димається північно-західний вітер, то відносить їх на загибель у Чорне море. Ті, котрі тямлють, стверджують, в них на крилах халдейськими буквами написана Божа кара. Говорять вони теж не по-нашому, але ті, що тямлять, таки розбирають. Покликаюсь на тих, хто мені це розповідав і володіє кількома мовами.
Communiqué number 7. It comes from the southeast, from empty salt plains over which incandescent air trembles. At first, small reconnaissance squads, then solid heavy storm clouds falling to earth like gray snow, filling porches, closets, and basements, beds, bowls of food. Every bite in the mouth needs to be cleaned from it. Pigs gobbling it grow fat, but the local people turn up their noses at the meat fed on this calamity. It covers the soil like a living carpet. Horses get stuck in it up to their fetlocks. They recoil, grunt, flare their nostrils. Wheels roll over it with a disgusting crunch, an unbearable stench. I had to breathe through a handkerchief to cover my nose and mouth with a scarf. With their sharpened tails, they drill countless holes in the earth, lay their eggs there, up to 300 at a time. Their offspring do not fear the cold. Clambering out, they wander confusedly, banging about here and there till they get stronger. If a northwestern wind starts blowing, then it carries them off to their demise by the Black Sea. Those who know say that on their wings, divine retribution is written in Chaldean letters. They also speak in a foreign tongue, but those who know understand. I refer to the people who told me this and who know several languages.
Thank you very much. It was great, really. I'm here, I think you will, and if you want to ask me some questions, I will answer with pleasure. But now I'm just shut up and give the word to
Masha, we'll read just a couple more poems, and then we would love to. I'm sure people have questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How about number 4 from Galina? I do not love you, he said, but count me as your devoted friend. Do you have it or not?
Ви не хочете читати ще російською?
Ну, мабуть, ні.
Із Гарієнне.
Yes,
Або можемо читати тільки переклад. Як хочете.
Я думаю, I think that on the translation, because I want to give you the word, yes.
Okay.
So I will just listen. Okay?
It's a poem from a longer poem called Gariena. I do not love you, he said, but count me your devoted friend. The train leaves the gorgeous station, heading south. Those leaden arches in the insect manner purloined from nature by a tubercular engineer. Their roofs fade away in a long fluid arch. Let us praise the T-square and firm pencil. Ladies' hats and suitcases wander back and forth. How strange indeed that none of it's forever. While she, tears veiled, walks on, her face gone pale, embodying a classic image from interwar prose. Wings of dragonflies shine blue, fur-lined with smoke, effortlessly deflecting the last bell bowl, holding the sky, while from other wholly unknown places, from airports very far away, a swarm of wholly other insects. Along the rusty fields of green, over green and foreign land, the crawling caterpillar train cars can be seen so well, like aspic on a plate, the motley foreign cities. God, what will happen to us? Same as always, my child.
And the last two poems we're going to read are from a cycle that was written earlier, certainly before all of this, but which we actually cite in our introduction because it kind of embodies this sense of anxiety and apprehension that is really palpable throughout the whole collection. I was just, though, maybe someone, are there any fashionistas here who have heard of someone who makes handbags called Judith Leiber or Lieber?
Yes, Lieber.
Lieber, okay. I didn't know, I didn't want to mispronounce it. It comes up.
Lots of jewels.
Lieber, okay. So I'll read the first one and you will, yeah, the
I can't find the second one.
113.
113, okay.
So 1. He says, all the glittering mica layers, the mountains and the cities, I would give them all up to keep you from misfortune, any worse than what was then. He says, you're a fish and I am water. He says, my ponds are plump with fish, my cisterns splashing with black milk, my winged junks laden with hashish. I, he says, did you so good so many times. All the coast winds are working for you. All the world studios are working for you. Judith Lieber's making bags for you. Hedy Lamarr acted in silent films for you, though that was quite a while ago. He says, what you lost, I have found. That's me, your first and your second. I'm hardcore and nothing will tear us apart. So he says, while the train rattles on, while bodies on dirty mattresses lie sprawled by sleep, striped by the passing lights. 3 days now, she hasn't opened her eyes. 3 days now, he's been talking to her, singing, while the train cuts across snow-covered fields, then fields full of reflecting muddy water, melted water, then fields with unharvested rusty stubble, then black scorched fields. Of course she is still breathing. Of course she hears him talking. She can't not hear.
Good job.
What's going on there? She asks. What's going on? I can't see anything from here. Can't hear. He says the cherries are glowing red there, sour ones. There is always markets here on Saturdays. Village ladies in bright headscarves selling buns and beer. Fresh fish caught that very morning. It's too bad you can't see how pretty it looks. The watchman's hut, all in hollyhocks, pink and purple. Soon we'll get to the sea, get out at the way station. Seems like I can hear the pounding of surf even from here. What do you mean, thanks? God be with you. She's lying turned to face the wall. He looks out the window. Above the roof, something like a blaze, like nothing found in nature. A low sky of heavy and greasy steam from the cooling towers, or not from the towers. Fine, he says, we'll start at the beginning. And so he speaks, and things seem better. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think because it is past midnight in Odesa, we will open the floor to your questions to Maria. So great that she could be with us. Maybe we'll start with that, and then if you have questions for us, we can move on to this. Yeah, I think that'll work. So maybe, I don't know if we want to have people come up. It's a little dicey over here. Maybe speak up, and then I can make sure she understood the question.
Or it's totally possible to come up and even go around the podium so that she sees who is asking the question, if you'd like to.
So, yeah, anybody have
I
a...
have a question about, I'm just sounding, so I'm difficult to understand, but I'm interested to hear about Novyi environment in weeks before the war, because it seems to me Novyi editorial board went to the dark side, and I just want to hear what it was like in the final weeks there.
Okay.
Я могу повторить. Меня слышно, нет? Мария, вы меня слышите, нет?
Маша, слышишь?
Ainsley,
Да, давай.
can you just repeat it or in Russian?
Такой вопрос про то, как это было. Вы же работали еще в Новом мире, так сказать, накануне войны, вот во время
Как там обстановка
перед
была?
вторжением. И какова там была атмосфера?
Последние недели.
Перед войной.
No, Новый мир, it is rather conservative magazine, and it is not, what is it, maybe it is now some kind of bad word, liberal. Новый мир was not really liberal, but Новый мир was very, what is it, literature-centric and very free-minded. And before the war, it gave a lot of pages to Ukrainian authors. And it is maybe very important for me that there are a lot of Ukrainian authors, they agreed to be published in Novyi Mir. And there were a lot of translators who collaborated with Novyi Mir and presented the work of Ukrainian writers, poets, so on and so on. For example, Polina Barskova, she published in Novyi Mir the translation of Maria Mikhailovskaya Babin Yar. It is very important for Ukrainian literature book. It was awarded by Shevchenko Prize in Ukraine. And so it was translated partly by me and partly by Polina Barskova. It was published here. But of course, when the war began, I think that it would be wise just to quit my job at Novyi Mir, because I didn't want to collaborate with any Russian institution, even the best of it. So now I think that it is censored, all Russian literature is censored. Novyi Mir is not pro-war magazine, but I'm not sure that it is anti-war magazine.
Yeah, I know it's not because of, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Спасибо.
So actually, please feel free to address
Yeah.
Maria from the camera. Maybe there's
Be careful
Yes,
with the
yes,
wire.
yes. It's very.
Beware of the
Maria, hi. I thought I was going to use this opportunity to put my face into your view. Thank you so much for your poetry and for your notes. You know, we derived a lot of solace from your notes in the first days of the wars and the weeks and the months in particular. So the question that I want to ask is, has been already touched upon by your translators. It's about the language. There was mentioned here that your Ukrainian was, of course, fluent and native because you've been growing with it and you finished the high school in it. But I'm very curious how it was when you returned and you decided to delve into this language. How it feels to be returning to a language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vasilina. There is very funny that a lot of people just pay attention on language question. It is not very important as it seems, especially for Ukrainian people, born Ukrainian people who lived in Ukraine for some time, because all Ukrainian people are bilingual. And of course, Russian was the language of Imperial, and it was language for communication, for total communication in between different nations in Soviet Union, and then it was still language of communication and language for maybe literature and so on and so on. But in Ukraine, always there was Ukrainian, and I think that for me it was not a problem to switch to Ukrainian. Now I write all my journalistic articles in Ukrainian. And of course, I make mistakes sometimes, but I train. There is a problem with poems because my operational system is still Russian, and I write my poems in Russian, but I make auto translations. And when you translate yourself into different another language, you change your literature, change your poems. It is quite different poems to compare with the original, with the initial. So I think that for me it is easier to write poems on Russian and then to translate myself into Ukrainian and to transverse it to Ukrainian, I would say. So I'm not sure it is really a problem here. Odesa was Russian-speaking city before the war, but now it is a Ukrainian-speaking city. And it is normal for people who want to have some kind of barrier in between them and Russia. And the language may be the same, the kind of barrier. Because we are not Russian, we are different. Yes, we speak different things. And I think it is very important for us now just to dissolve our language in Ukrainian culture, to be dissolved in Ukrainian culture. Isn't the answer, Vasilina? I hope so.
Anybody else want to come up?
Please.
We'll take you and then Amelia. I don't know. You can probably do this without causing a disaster. Look at you. Oh, you're so good. Yes.
Hello,
Very
Maria. My name is Sagi. So it's more. My question is not about the poem specifically. It's actually about you. My mom is hitting 50s age, and she's learning English right now. And I wanted to ask, how did you learn English? Did you study like in Odesa, or you were traveling here to study too? Because you're speaking very good, actually.
Thank you very much. It's great. You know, I think a lot of Russian people and then a lot of Soviet people just studied English by books, first of all, by reading books, and secondly, of course, by films. And we have an opportunity to watch English films, and I think it is a good training. But really, I myself traveled a lot, and I lived for some time in Norway, and English was the language of communication. You know that English is very convenient for international communication. It is just a bit. It is very simple one language, so it is convenient to communicate. And secondly, I lived in England just a bit. I traveled a lot in England. And I myself I am translator, and I translate English poems into Russian and English poems into Ukrainian, and I translate Ukrainian and Russian poems into English. It is funny, but it is so. So I think that for me there is no problem to speak English, but I have no practice for oral communication. And I am very shy, and when I have to speak English, I am always just a bit shy and just a bit nervous when I have to speak.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I guess that you were studying in England, that makes sense, in Norway, all that. Thank you.
Amelia?
Let's see. There's all sorts of obstacles.
Oh, yes.
I know,
It's amazing. Oh dear. Hi. I also wanted to just mostly put my face in front of you, but I do have two questions, and you can answer whichever one you want. First, your work with Kianovska. Could you say more about what it's like to read translations of your work into a language that you also write in? And how does that language match your own? Kianovska has a very particular style. And the second question is about Odesa, and are people speaking Ukrainian on the street? Is this has just become the language for everyone, in public at least? And what about in private?
Thank you very much. I will try to answer both. First of all, about Maria Galina. Maria Galina is a professional translator. She is a brilliant poet, and she is a brilliant translator. And she translates from Polish, yes? She translates from Russian, she translates, I don't know, maybe from English, but I'm not sure, but maybe. So she has some kind of a big experience in translation. And when you are a translator, you just take the style of the person who you translate, yes? Whom you translate. So Maria Galina translated my novel into Ukrainian, and now we can find it into Ukrainian bookstores. So I have a lot of experience of collaboration with Ukrainian writers, translators, poets, so on, so on. And I think that it is great. I'm very proud. And second was question about the language, Ukrainian language in Odesa. Odesa initially was Russian-speaking city, but now there is a lot of refugees here in Odesa, and there is refugees from the different regions of Ukraine, regions that are attacked by Russian armies. And some of these refugees are Ukrainian-speaking, and some of them are just denied, yes, to speak Russian, because they identify Russian language with the language of aggression. So they choose to speak Ukrainian. And we have some kind of laws that you have in public space, you have to speak Ukrainian. And I think that it is very wise to have this law, because I think that the language is some kind of site of independence, and the language is also a missile, a noun, and you can use it as a missile. And we already see that Russia is using it as a missile, as a noun, and we have to have some kind of, what is it, counterpart, yes? We have to do something to counterpart this aggression, and language is the one of the ways to stay this aggression. So now in Odesa there is a lot of, you can just in the streets you can hear a lot of Ukrainian speaking people. It is already quite a normal situation, and I like it very much. I personally like it very much. So.
Thank you.
I think so.
Дякую дуже за вірші та вітаю.
Це дуже приємно.
Does anyone else want to come up? Have your moment on the screen? Yasha.
Show your face to
Masha, thank you so much once again. I wanted to ask, since this is a book event, and you speak as you answer to one of my students' question about English, such perfect English, to what extent were you, actually this is a question for Ainsley and Dana also, maybe Nastya Osipova, who is the publisher of this beautiful book of Cicada Press, to what extent, how did the process of working on this book become part of your life? Not writing the poems, but putting them together in a book, and maybe working with the translators. And the second thing, following up on the previous question, which I thought would be interesting for us to hear about from you, is one, I guess, thing is to hear the change, right? The change of language on the streets of a city like Odesa. What do you think is happening in the past 2 years? Of course, many things, but mainly, how is the tradition of Ukrainian poetry that you have stepped in writing, having switched to Ukrainian perhaps not so long ago, right? What are you witnessing in terms of how it's changing from inside, right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So about this book, and I'm very grateful again to the editor and to translators and to all people who helped me to sound in English, yes. But I myself didn't interfere in the process of translation because I trust my translators, and I think that. When here is my responsibility stops when I write my own poems, and the translations, the editions of the book, it is not my not the responsibility of mine. So
If
I hope that.
May I just want to say something because there are students here. Well, we did send drafts around, and it's always really nice to work with someone who can read them and offer commentary, although you did not offer strong commentary. But I also wanted to just mention that this book includes translations by a group of students at Dartmouth, where I work, who Masha actually worked with pretty actively. You Zoomed with them while they were working on the translation, and you helped them to understand several parts of what was actually a very complicated poem. So you should all feel empowered by that. And actually a graduate student who I know helped us as one of the readers of the completed manuscript, and she contributed with really useful comments on the translation. So it really always is, at least in my experience, a very collaborative effort involving lots of people as well as including the author, but not only. Sorry to interrupt, and I want you to be able to answer the second part of Yasha's question.
Yes, I try not to forget. Okay, it's about the Ukrainian poetry for the last 2 years, I think.
The way you see it after you started being part of it, right? Having switched to Ukrainian.
I think that a lot of authors, Ukrainian poets that were Russian speaking before the beginning of the Russian war, they switched into Ukrainian, and it was processed not, it didn't begin now, it began maybe at 2015, 2014, after the Crimea annexion, and a lot of, not a lot of, but some poets who wrote Russian, speaking Russian language, who worked in Russian language, they just switched into Ukrainian. And as I already said, that it was very easy for them because most Ukrainian people are bilingual. And now there is just a bit another process because we just have to have a reflection on the war. War, it is very dramatic situation, and you know that it is very dramatic for Ukrainian people. A lot of people are in army, a lot of people, and among these people there are a lot of poets. You know that Dmitro Lazutkin is now in army. Maxim Krivtsov, he was killed or he was in army. He is very interesting and very mighty poetry. And a lot of girls who are now volunteering. So mostly poetry now is connected with this dramatic experience of war. And I think that this experience, the poetry, is some kind of very swift reaction art. I mean, to compare with prose, for example, prose is just a bit slow. Yes? So what we have to reflect the war? We have poetry and we have some kind of non-fiction. Here is two genres that reacts more swiftly to all social changes and also social terror. So I think that poetry now is one of the main instruments of the reflection of the war. And of course, the most important, most serious, most big poetry books. Now there's books which is connected with the reflection of the war.
Thank you. Thank you.
Masha, can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, one thing that attracted me very much to your poetry is that, let's say, feminist poetry in Russia exhibits completely different tendencies. It's mostly young poets writing about their feelings, about their gender, about sex. They add a little bit of philosophy. You know, there is a famous poem by Galina, My Vagina, that caused a scandal. And your poetry is very different. It's a poetry of somebody who was trained as a scientist, you know, that includes countries, people, animals, history, and it's very rich, and it has multiple layers, which I like very much. I was wondering how a poet and science fiction and prose writer and nonfiction writer, because you write your diaries, how those three writers sort of mix in your life and in your writing.
Difficult question, and now when here is already the third year of the war, I myself do not write fiction because the reality is so abnormal that it doesn't need fiction to be reflected. You, as I said before already, that fiction, it is the last thing that reacts to the social process. and to compare with the absurdity of the reality, of the modern reality, fiction is nothing for me. Yes? So I stopped I quit to write fiction, and I wrote a book of diaries, and it was published in Israel by my old friend Maria Galina. It is very nice and beautiful book. It is not by chance. It is really by chance, but it is here. It is like this one. And, yes, it is the diary of the first year of the war, partly based on the Facebook notes, partly not. And I think that my task? It is very pathos, sounds very posh, yes, but it is really task. To give the voices to another people, yes? So all my verses, they're not lyric, there is no private lyric. I think myself not very interesting person. And I think that to describe my own feelings and my own fears and my own desires, it's not very important. And if we consider the situation, it is more important to describe the situation, to give the voice to another people. And so I think that all this lyric and all these troubles of your soul, which is so painful and so, it is the problems of the peaceful times. And we have no peaceful times now, and we have quite different problems, quite different things. And I think that it is very important now just to reflect all this. We have no times for self-reflection, for self-analysis now.
So
I think so.
So you're writing your own lyrics.
Yes, but it is also the voice which is not mine. Yes, it is the voice of the Plan. It is of course fantastic. It is just a bit shifted, yes, to compare with the real relation of the Plan, but it is not mine voice. So I think it is some kind of strengthening, maybe. There is some term of Shklovsky, the strengthening, yes, estrangement. And we have strengthening to turn the situation, yes, and to show the strength, yes, strangeness of it. So I think that there is the method which I try to explore.
Sorry, everybody. Keep talking.
And you are delivering it very, very powerfully.
I hope so, thank you.
Thank you, Marsha.
И давайте поздравления Аркадию, у него день рождения еще.
Masha, we are having technical difficulties again. You can still see me, right?
Okay.
Меня видно?
Yes, I
Но мы вас не бачимо уже.
maybe it's for good. So
It is 1:15 in the morning in Odesa. So I think in this ignoble way we will
Just turn around.
bid farewell.
I will say goodbye.
Masha, we want to also convey birthday greetings to Arkady. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and
Yes, you say that we love you.
Yeah, I see that.
we love you and we
Yes.
send love to
Goodbye
Odesa.
to all. Goodbye to all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Issa. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, everybody.
Дуже дякую.
Okay, bye.
З днем народження.
Счастливо. Аркаша.
Okay.
This was the most eventful event in terms of not only the content and the subject matter,
But all the technology. Any final questions for anybody involved? Sorry about the tech. Thank you for bearing with us.
Do you want to read us another translation too?
Read your favorite.
They're really beautiful.
I read most of my favorites. I mean, there's a lot of really good poems in here. There was one I was gonna read, right?
And the bilingual part, I haven't got my book yet. It's supposed to be.
Well, the whole book is bilingual, but
Is it Russian or Ukrainian on the other side?
the diary section is in Russian and Ukrainian and English.
And the poetry?
But maybe I could read. I was thinking of reading a couple things from the diary, so maybe we should end with that. Yeah. Okay, I'll read just a couple of the early entries. I'll just read 3. Okay. So February 23rd, 2022. We're in Odesa. This afternoon it was still a beautiful, peaceful day. I was supposed to give lectures on the history and theory of science fiction and fantasy and master classes today and on Saturday. I sent off a long-awaited collection of new poems to a good press. That's this. It was not published by the Russian press that she sent it to. And finally knocked out a long-awaited co-authored article with my co-author. My paper proposal was accepted for a conference in Tartu in June. I have nothing to say. This is a new experience and a completely unnecessary one. But what's there is there. February 24th. We're in Odesa. It's very quiet and sunny. I guess there were air raid sirens in the night. We slept through them because we hadn't slept the previous night because of the shelling. The same can't be said of Kyiv. A very strange feeling of the utter unreality of what's happening. But the full picture in real time can only be understood through the news feed. God save Ukraine. Oh, and I understand why people are writing take care and stay safe, but it's not up to us. I did teach the sci-fi seminar. February 27th. Odesa. The night was quiet. According to the news, there was an air attack, but it was repulsed. I didn't hear it. I woke up in the middle of the night because someone was shining a flashlight in the windows. I was terrified, but it turned out to be our landlord, checking to see if we were all right. Shtipol, this is her husband, said, so they're shining lights in the windows, so what? And went back to sleep. Very quiet, unusually quiet. After my last bout of COVID, which as I said turns out to have been pretty mild, I have olfactory hallucinations. I am constantly smelling something burning for a week now. Because of this, I'm not able to sense any real burning smell. Seems like it was onto something. COVID, I mean.
Can I read maybe another little excerpt?
Yeah.
From my diary? February 28th, good morning. This one, you didn't read that.
Yeah.
Everything fine for now. The air defense is working. Good morning. I slept well for the first time in 4 nights because I started believing that we'll be protected. The 3 previous nights confirmed this. Kiev is still standing. I could not get through to my old friend in Irpin all day yesterday. I'll check again now. Official reports have it that amphibious warships have left Crimea and are heading for Odesa. I think they'll be met appropriately. There are anti-tank defenses in Odesa. To those on the other side, though, I've already deleted the hostile ones, probably should have left them. It would be good for them to hear. The conversations about brotherly peoples are no longer relevant. You can imagine how people here feel about Russia after the last 3 days. Here is a message I got from Moscow. We are organizing a big poetry marathon, Poems Against War in the Rassvet House of Culture, March 4th, 7 p.m. These are people I know from the opposition. If anyone wants to participate, let me know. I declined, but I have things to do now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much again. And